We're still not sure if he's Filipino or not. We'll find out, though, by the end of the show. All right, we've got a couple more comics coming to the stage. This next guy is super funny. Please give it up for Chris Godwin.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Give it up for Jesse, everybody. Far and away my favorite and best stand-up comedian teacher ever. He's not my only stand-up comedian teacher. My name is Chris Godwin. Thank you all so much for coming out here. Give it up for yourselves for coming out here on a Saturday. I know you're coming out here to support a family member, a loved one, a friend, as well as about 8 or 9 people you've never met before and will probably never see again. So I think Chris mentioned it earlier. Today's February 1st. And then Chris, I too, I'm glad that we're done with January. A friend of mine recently told me that January is like the Monday of months. And that really stuck with me because it really felt that way for me. It felt like every day of January was a Monday. And it was kind of, I think it happened because I had one of those Decembers. It was like a little bit of like a bender weekend before that Monday, where you kind of have the Sunday scaries, which I think in this case would be maybe the December doomies. But anyway, I just think that February is a better month in general overall. It's like nobody's talking about their resolutions. They're not asking, and more importantly, they're not asking you about your resolutions. There's just the expectations are a lot lower in general. Even the Girl Scouts know now is the time to start selling cookies because we've all pretty much given up on improving ourselves. They know that we're fully prepared to eat a full sleeve of tagalongs alone in the dark in our underwear. Besides Girl Scout cookies, February also brings us the Super Bowl, and we got some booze over here. The Super Bowl is kind of bittersweet because it means it's the last game of the football season. But by the time the football season's over for me, I'm kind of ready for it to be over. I love it, but it takes a little bit too much of my free time. My wife knows, she's here. It takes a little bit too much of my free time and my energy, and a big part of that is fantasy football. There you go. Fantasy football, if you don't know what it is, congratulations. Keep up the good work. Stay away. But I'll just let you know, for the purposes of this story, it's a game where guys like me get in a group of guys together, and we draft real NFL players for our fake teams, and their real performances total the points for our fake teams. It's kind of this weird mix between jock and nerd. It's like it's very odd. Anyway, usually this fantasy obsession, it's mild, but it's an obsession. It doesn't usually get in the way of my real life, but there was one time this past September that I wanted to tell you guys about where it got me and my wife into a little bit of an awkward and embarrassing situation. You're going to know this, Yvette. So this past September, my company picnic happened to be on the same day as my fantasy draft. And being the model employee that I am, I was not going to miss that picnic. And I sure as shit, I'm not going to miss my fantasy draft. So I decided I'm going to do both. I can do it. Why not? As you all know, being San Diegans, it gets really hot here in September. But this past September, it was particularly hot as balls. And it was hot as balls that day. So that being said, my wife and I decided that we're going to be more than fashionably late to this luau because we didn't want to spend 3 hours in the sun baking. That was a strategic move, but as it turned out, it was not quite as strategic as I thought, because by the time we got to the park, it was right when my draft was starting, which is when you have to pay the most attention to a draft. So we pull up to the park. I got my eyes glued to my phone. We get out. There's like 7 or 8, maybe 10 different events going on. But fortunately, I forgot forgot to tell you this important part, guys. The event was a luau theme. So of course I was wearing my Hawaiian shirt, and I was getting ready to do the limbo with some random coworkers. But I was also focusing on this draft. So anyway, we get at the park. There's 7 or 8 events. We're like, where do we go? So we happened to see some people coming from one direction wearing Hawaiian leis, and we're like, oh, we'll head that direction. Meanwhile, I'm studying my phone, making sure I can get the chance to draft Saquon Barkley or Patrick Mahomes. Preferably Saquon. But anyway, so we start heading in the direction of the leis, and on our way to the luau, we're passing another event, and I'm looking at it. It happens to catch my attention away from my phone, and it looks like some kind of like theme park or sports team mascot party. And I'm like, this is kind of weird. So as we get closer, I look at the sign on the tent, San Diego Furry Association. And if you don't know what a furry is, again, congratulations. You probably should never know what a furry is, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Furries are the people that dress up in these full mascot outfits and have sex with each other in full costume. I didn't see any of that happening at the park, but it was quite the scene nonetheless. I did see, them all the furries out there picnicking it up, picnicking their little furry little hearts out on the hottest day of the year in full furry costumes. I even saw one of them flipping burgers at the grill, and it's not every day that you get to see a wolf cooking up a cow. So we finally get to the luau, and we're almost 2 hours late at this point, and we see that they're starting to shut down the food. So my wife and we hurry to get some plates of food. We find a nearby table that has open seats. This welcoming family. We sit down next to them. We start eating, and it's at that point I look around at the tables around me, and I start to see like I don't really recognize any of the people at the other tables. And I've been working at my company for 5 years, but nonetheless, I have a fantasy draft to focus on and a plate of food in front of me. I'm not too worried about it. But in between draft picks, I do manage to make some small talk with my table mate. Turns out his name is Ibrahim, and he works out of the Imperial Valley office. And he delivers meals to seniors, which I found really interesting because, A, I didn't know we had an Imperial Valley office for my company, and B, I was unaware that the insurance company I work for delivered meals to seniors. So as I'm pondering this, I happen to look down on the table, and there's an agenda for the luau. I'm like, oh, let's see what's on the agenda. First thing on the agenda, it says morning prayer. And it hits me. We're at the wrong fucking luau. So I casually slide the agenda over to my wife and point to the first item on there, and I look at it and I go, we gotta get the hell out of here. So we politely excuse ourselves, say goodbye to Ibrahim and his lovely family, and we're on our way out the door. We see a security guard, who I guess was guarding the luau from people like us, maybe luau crashers. So anyway, walk past them, and of course, we play it cool. We smile, we wave, we say aloha, and at this point, we're over 2 hours late to the luau we're supposed to be at. And so I call my buddy who I know is there. I get directions. Turns out I was on the other side of the furry party. So we get over there. There's about a half hour left in the event. As we're walking up, there's immediately 30 to 40 people I recognize their faces. And I do recognize a group of close coworkers. They're like, where the hell have you been? There's a half hour left in this luau, Godwin. And I go, here's the story. And they, rightfully so, they mercilessly and mock me and laugh at me, as I would have done to them. But in the end, we didn't get to do the limbo, but I did get to show my face at the luau, and did get to provide some entertainment to some people there. But that's not where the story ends. The next week at the office, I'm sitting there, and I have multiple people come by my desk. People that I kind of know, kind of don't. People that I definitely didn't see at either luau are telling me that they heard about my story. So apparently I went viral in the office, and for all the wrong reasons. And it got so bad that I seriously considered transferring to the Imperial Valley office and delivering meals with Ibrahim. But at least I got Saquon Barkley. Thank you, guys. I'm Chris Godwin. That was awesome. Give
keep it going for Chris Godwin, everybody. Let's hear it for him. Always good seeing him again. I was part of that furry convention, so that was cool. This next comedian coming to the stage, absolute ball of energy. She holds the record for taking the class the most subsequent times. I've taught this for about a decade. She's taken the class 20 years running.